Hi, boys and girls. This is lesson 7.3, the Pythagorean Theorem. This is in your workbook, so you'll want to have those while you're watching the video. The Pythagorean Theorem starts on page 405. Okay, we've kind of done some stuff with the Pythagorean Theorem before. We did the prequel, but now we're going to do the actual reveal lesson. Okay, so again, reviewing, there are two different parts to a right triangle. There are the legs, they form the right angle, and the hypotenuse, which is across from the legs. Okay. Pythagorean theorem tells you that if you take the square of the two legs and add it together, it equals the square of the hypotenuse. Here, this is the one triangle I told you they give you before they jump into ladder problems. This here, they have an animation that I can't show on here, but it shows how to find the missing length of the hypotenuse. You see, this is one where you have the legs, but you're missing the hypotenuse. So they have taken the two measures of the legs and put them in for A and B. Remember, it doesn't matter which order you put them in. All right, right away we need to know what 21 squared is. I guess I need a calculator. All right, 21 squared is 441. So that's what goes in this little box right here. All right, and 20 squared is 400. That one I do know. So then we would have 841 equals c squared. And then remember, the last step is always to take the square root of both sides. Now, some kids have asked, when you take the square root of c squared, it unsquares it. So your final answer would just have c, okay? It won't have the square anymore. Now, what is this plus or minus thing out here? Well, the plus or minus thing, first of all, let me get the square root of 841. Square root of 841 is 29. Now, what they're saying is that the answer is plus or minus 29. And I'm just going to touch on that briefly. You have to consider the possibility that the number is negative 29 because a negative times a negative is positive. So 841 can be gotten two ways. You can do 29 times 29, or you can do negative 29 times negative 29. This little plus minus thing is there to remind you that it could be positive or it could be negative. But for all the word problems and most of the regular application problems, we're going to just use the positive one. Okay, the equation has two solutions. However, the length of any side of a triangle cannot be negative, so the hypotenuse has the length of 29. Okay. Here's your ladder. Say you got one triangle, and then we go to ladder. A ladder is leaning against a building as shown in the figure. What is the length of the ladder? Okay, so they have not given us the length of the ladder. We know how tall the building is, and we know how far away the ladder is from the building. These two sides form the right angle, so they're the legs. Okay, so we're going to square those two, put 12 here and 16 here. Well, 12 squared is 144. And I'm pretty sure I know that one, but I'll check it just to be sure, because I screw up. 256. Okay, and when you add those together, you get 400. And then you want to take the square root of both sides. And so you would square root this side and you would square root this side. All right, the square root of 400 is 20. And now you just have regular c, not c squared anymore. So the ladder is a 20-footer. And we have a boat. This whole section is full of boats for some reason. I don't know. Somebody really likes boats. The mast of a sailboat is 15 feet tall. Okay. A support rope is attached to the top of the mast and attaches to the deck 8 feet away from the base of the mast. So we know that this support rope is 8 feet away from the base. Find the length of the support rope. Again, we're solving for the hypotenuse, so this is pretty easy. We're going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where a and b are the legs. These are the legs because they make the right angle. So we'll have 8 squared plus 15 squared equals c squared. 8 squared is 64. 15 squared is 225. Pretty sure. Well, c squared. And then we're going to have to add these together. I'll check the 15 squared. Yep, 225. And then add that to 64. And we have 289. Oh, I know where this is going. Okay. Then if you take the square root of both sides, Square root of 289. Yep, I was right. 17. No decimals. We're not having to round anything yet. They've been giving us nice Pythagorean triples. So, okay, so the length of the rope is 17 feet. All right, here we have a golf course. Find the hypotenuse in 3 dimensions. All right, see, they make this really complicated really fast, and this is why we did a prequel on this unit, because it gets so complicated so fast. All right, so they've given us this golf thingy, some flagpole. Okay, you got a flagpole, and it's 12 feet high, and then you've got 7 feet to here, and they want to know the wire that stabilizes the pole. How long is it? Okay, well, let's see. We would substitute the 12 in here, and we put 7 in here. 12 times 12 is 144. 7 times 7 is 49. Add those two together. And we get 193. Then you would take the square root of both sides. Again, square root 193. Okay, they've stopped being nice to us. We're getting 13.89244399. We're getting an irrational number. So we're going to round, and does it tell us what to round it to? Round to the nearest tenth. That means we want one number up to the decimal. We have 13.89, which rounds to 13.9. Yeah. Same thing we were doing with triangles, it's just now we've got little pictures and word problems. Here we have a cone of radius 25 feet and a height of 34 feet. How long is the distance from the top of the cone to the edge of the cone? So again, they've given us the legs and are asking us to find the hypotenuse. Okay, so using a squared plus b squared equals c squared, we would have the two legs, 34 squared plus 25 squared equals c squared. 34 squared is 1156. 25 squared, I think I know that one, but we won't trust. 625 equals c squared. Now we have to add those together. 1156, 1781 equals c squared. And remember, our last step is always to take the square root of both sides. So we need the square root of 1781. Yep, that's not friendly either. We find that c is, we get 42.20. So that would be 42.2. Now they're going to start giving you one leg and a hypotenuse and asking you to find the other leg. And remember, these are the ones that take an extra step. All right, we have a plane that takes off from an airport and travels 13 miles on its path. If the plane is 12 miles from the takeoff point horizontally, what is its height? Well, they've drawn the triangle for you here that involve planes, trying to get interesting. Using our a squared plus b squared equals c squared, we only have one leg. All right, we're like a pirate here. We only have one leg. We're missing this leg. So we can put this 12 in for either A or B, but the other one's got to stay a variable. Okay, so if we put it in for A, we'll put 12 squared, and then B squared just stays like it is because that's the one we don't know. And then C is 13 squared. All right, so we're going to have 144. Oh, I guess we're just putting in these stupid boxes over here. 12 squared equals 13 squared. So then we would have 144, and 13 squared is 169. And then we would subtract 144 from 169, and we would get 25. And then we would take the square root of both sides, and we would get that our answer is 5. And they're still doing the plus and minus thing, but distance is not measured in negatives. So this would be just positive 5. And we're flying a kite. Okay, again, we're missing a leg. This is the side we don't know. We have the hypotenuse, and we have one leg. We're going to do this the same way we did before. We're going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay. A can be the one leg we do know, 35 squared, plus b squared is the leg we don't know, and the hypotenuse is 50 squared. 35 squared is going to require a calculator. 35 squared is 1225 plus b squared equals, that would be 25 and 2 zeros. If you ever want to multiply numbers like that, multiply this times 5, 5 times 5, and then you know you multiplied, there were 2 zeros that you didn't include, so put them at the end. That's how you do that in your head. Now we're going to subtract 1225 from both sides. And we get that b squared is equal to 100 minus 1225, 1275. Our last step is to take the square root of both sides. And we're going to have to round this one. We're getting 35.707. So 35.70. So this would be 0.7 because 0 will not round that up. All right. That seems about right too. You can always look at your picture and say, does that seem about right? This should be less than this because you know the legs are always shorter than the hypotenuse. Okay. All right. And then they're going to give you cones and stuff. They like to give you Pythagorean Theorem cones. They've drawn the triangle for you though. It's right here and here. This is the hypotenuse. This is a leg. This is the other leg we don't know. Okay, so this is the thing we don't know here. So we take the leg we do know and put it in there. B represents the leg we don't know. 17 is hypotenuse, so it goes over here. 8 squared is 64. And 17 squared, I think I know, but be safe, 289. And then we subtract 64 from 289. We get 225. And I happen to know the square root of 225 is 15. Okay, so does it seem reasonable that this side would be 15? Yeah, it definitely does. Here we have a house. They like these 3D triangles. But you can see the right triangles right here. It's here, here, and here. Okay? What do we know? We know this is 50. We know this is 45, and we're trying to find this leg. Okay? So the one leg we do know is 45. We don't know the other leg. And we know the hypotenuse is 50. Everything is squared. 45 squared is 2025, not too far in the future, plus b squared equals 50 squared, so that'd be 2500. Okay. Subtract 2025 from both sides, and we get that b squared is equal to 475. And then we would take the square root of both sides. And we get that b would be 21.79. 79 is going to round up to 8. Does that make sense? Does that seem reasonable? Yeah, it's less than the hypotenuse. It's a pretty short little roof, but it seems like it could work. And then we start the motorboat thing. I don't get the motorboat thing. They do like 2 example problems of this, and then they have one on the practice too. So they really like their boats. Alma has a motorboat that averages 3 miles per gallon of gasoline, and the tank holds 15 gallons of gasoline. At 9 a.m., Alma left the dock. At 10 a.m., her position was 3 miles west and 4 miles north of the dock. Okay? If she continues at this rate, in how many more hours will the tank be out of gasoline? Okay, well, we need to know how far she's gone. Okay, we need to know how far she's gone. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use our Pythagorean theorem to figure out how far she's gone. Okay, we can turn this into a right triangle. This side is 3 long, 3 boxes, say 1 box, 2 box, 3 box. This side is 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes long. And using these 2 numbers, we can find the length of this one. This is a very common Pythagorean theorem triangle. It's called the 3, 4, 5 triangle. So I automatically know that this is going to be 5, but I can prove it to you. We would have 3 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16. 9 plus 16 is 25. And the square root of 25 is 5. Okay, so that's the 3, 4, 5 triangle. That's how you would have figured it out. But we've got bigger questions to answer here. And we need the room here. Okay. We have bigger questions to answer. We know that her boat gives her 3 miles for every gallon. So 3 miles she can go on 1 gallon of gas. We know that the tank holds 15 gallons. Okay, so how far can a tank of gasoline on this boat take us? Well, if it holds 15 gallons and she gets 3 miles for each gallon, what's 15 times 3? 45. So the boat can go 45 miles on a tank of gas. All right. How far has she gone? Well, we figured it out. She has gone 5 miles. All right. She went 5 miles in 1 hour. If she goes 5 miles in 1 hour, how many hours can she travel before she runs out of gas? What's 45 divided by 5? It's 9. So that means she has a total of 9 hours of travel time on a full tank of gas. The question says, and how many more hours will the tank be out of gasoline? What you need to realize is she's already traveled 1 of these hours. So we have to subtract 1 from this 9. She can only go 8 more. All right. So you have to be really careful with the questions asking you. And then we have another boat problem. And I worked out all the math on this one ahead of time too, so we're good. Meredith has a boat that why do all these women have boats? Has a boat that averages 5 miles per gallon of gasoline, and the tank holds 17 gallons of gasoline. At 3 p.m., Meredith left the dock. At 4 p.m., she was 5 miles east and 12 miles south. Okay, so 12 south and 5 east. This is our right triangle here. Sorry for the squiggly lines. It's really hard to write on this graphic tablet. All right, so this is 12 and this is 5. And this is how far she's traveled. Okay. Well, we know that she gets 5 miles per gallon. 5 miles out of every gallon of gas. Her boat's getting better mileage. It's 1 gallon. And we know the boat holds 17. All right. How far can the boat go on a full tank? What's 5 times 17? Oh, I wrote that wrong. 35, carrier 3, 85. So the boat can go 85 miles on a tank. How far did she travel in an hour? We need our Pythagorean theorem for this one. 12 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared. 144. Okay, so our legs are 12 and 5, and let's see, we've got 144. 5 times 5 is 25. And that equals c squared. 144 plus 25 is 169. Equals c squared. And I happen to know the square root of 169 is 13. So that tells us Meredith has traveled 13 miles in 1 hour. So if she can do 13 miles in 1 hour, how many hours can she travel on a tank of gas? Well, we need to know what is 85 divided by 13. I did this in advance. It's 6.5 rounded. So she can travel for 6.5 hours on a full tank, but it says how many more hours will the tank be out of gasoline? So we have to remember that she has traveled for 1 already. So she has 5.5 hours before she's going to run out of gas. Okay, and that brings us to the end of this video. I know that you're watching this on Tuesday, so this is the secret word right here. I'm not going to say it out loud because I'm in my study hall. But go on over to McGraw-Hill and enter that in the secret word assignment, and I'll see you in class.